Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ashley. If you've been following me for a while, I have been keeping a secret from you. And it has not felt good to keep this from you, but I knew that I needed to keep this thing close between me and the Lord so that He could just guide this whole process. Now I am so excited to finally share the tea with you guys on what I've been doing the last year and a half. Y'all, I wrote a book. Like a whole book. It has pages and ink. It has a hardcover. You're gonna put an aesthetic bookmark in it one of these days. A whole book. The fact that I am telling you this right now feels like a dream come true, but I will admit this was a dream that I've had since I was 6 years old, and I never knew how it actually would happen. But God, younger me is screaming right now. I cannot wait to share with you everything that has happened the past year and a half with this book. Let's get into the story of how this book came to be and how God basically made this happen. Let's start out with my story of being rejected by a book publisher. In first grade, I would write pages and pages and pages of like fiction books. It was kind of weird, but I would write all day long. My first grade teacher was saying, this girl's got a gift. She's very prolific. She just writes a lot. My parents were probably a little concerned. I would just write in these journals. I remember reading my Dear Dumb Diary. Who remembers that? And I was just like, I love the relatability of this. I love the style. It just was something that I loved. And I'm gonna write books like that one day. Come college, I'm still thinking like, I'm gonna write books. That's what I'm going to do. That is gonna be my career. However, I just didn't know when it was gonna happen. There was a conference that I went to. I had an opportunity to pitch a book to a publisher. I went in feeling confident. I had this terrible book proposal. It was literally so bad, but I did my best. I went into this conference. I went to this publisher meeting, and I basically got rejected. It's not that publisher's fault. It's actually because your girl just wasn't ready. However, young Ashley, sophomore in college Ashley, was very distraught, considered that her dreams were completely shattered because this publisher said that she wasn't ready to write a book yet. Basically, I went back home to college after being rejected with my book proposal, thinking that I'm just not gonna be an author. I guess it's just not gonna happen. Then I decided to self-publish because there were girls in my Bible study that were asking the same questions around how to get into your faith. If you guys actually haven't read that book, you need to. It's called A Scoop of Honey. But I always had a dream to get an actual book published by a real publisher with an agency and all of that. This is where we get into the God story. It is 2021, and you guys know me. If you've been watching my Goals with God video, if you've watched any of my videos about goal setting and listening to the Lord, I take it so seriously when it comes to asking God what I should do next. Asking the Father for direction in my career, as well as in my relationships, as well as in my health. Like, I just love to ask the Lord what to do. I'm gonna take a little sip of my drink. We have True Labs today, guys. This is their electrolyte. I'm obsessed, like seriously so good. 2021 summer. I'm having a day where I am just alone with the Lord. I probably do this twice a year, where at the beginning of the year and at the middle of the year, it's kind of like fasting for me. It's another spiritual discipline where it's just solitude with God. I will typically take 2 days of the year where I will get away from everything, from all the noise. I will turn off my phone. I will just be with God. On this day, I was dog sitting for my dad, had the house to myself, and I had this sweet neighborhood that he was in, just was going on walks, listening to the Lord for an entire weekend. I just spent like a whole weekend alone. It was amazing because it was just me and Jesus. I was just bringing the different things in my life that I wanted to get counsel on. I wanted to get wisdom on. One of the things I said, Father, it is summertime. What do you want me to do before this year ends? And I just felt the Father say, I want you to finish your book proposal. Let me just backtrack. After that publisher rejected me, she said, you need to build a audience online. Because I had no audience online sophomore year of college, like literally none. I did not know any of you guys. I said, okay, I'm gonna do that. So then I went back and I started an Instagram page 5 years ago for the purpose of one day writing a book, but also God just led me on this whole journey. Anyway, in the back of my mind, when I was just starting to create content, was like, I cannot wait for the day that I'm going to be able to write a book to this amazing community that that I build online, because you can't write a book expecting that no one will read it. You need to write a book and also build an audience online that will read your book. And I was praying to the Lord this day in the summertime. I'd already started like 5 at that point. Like over those years, I'd started so many different ideas, but I never finished one. His voice was so loud and clear. When you spend time alone with God for an entire weekend and you just like are praying, you're worshiping, all the distractions are gone, you hear his voice very clearly. And every time I prayed and I would just still my mind and I would just listen, he was like, I want you to finish your book proposal. Here I am, June 2021. I'm like, okay, then what do you want me to do with it? Want me to look up publishers? Want me to look up agents, God? Like, what are your thoughts? What's next? What do you want me to do after I write the book proposal? And he said, I'm not going to tell you that. Finish the book proposal. He's really my dad, you guys. He was just not taking any of my crap, basically. I was trying to rush ahead and he was like, no, just finish your book proposal. I was like, huh, okay. We get down in the mud. You bet. I open up a Google Doc and I finish my book proposal. I looked it up. I looked up how to do it. I asked a friend who had written a book. It is December. At this point, I had been working and doing freelance social media for a couple clients, and one of my clients was an author. She had just gotten a book deal with an incredible literary agency, and since I was a psycho about books, I knew all the literary agencies. I knew all of like the top publishers. I just knew it all, and I knew that this girl was with one of the best literary agencies, and I knew that she also was getting a deal with one of the best publishers in Christian publishing. Meanwhile, I'm doing her social media, like helping her gear up for this book launch. And my mom is amazing. She's also like businesswoman, strategy. I love that about her. We're talking about my dream to write a book one day. She said, oh, well, would you ever ask your client if she could introduce you to her agent and her publisher? Yes, I want to do that. Like I absolutely would want my client to give me an introduction to this agency. But then on the other side of me, I feel the Holy Spirit be like, that's not what I told you to do. I told you to just finish the proposal. I go to the Father after that suggestion from my mom and I go, Lord, isn't it crazy that I finished my book proposal? I'm working for a client who has all these connections. I'm like, Father, this is crazy. Do you want me to say something? I feel him say, don't say anything. I am going to open the door. That didn't feel right. It felt discouraging because then here comes January after the holidays and I'm looking to Jesus. I'm like, Father, I finished the book proposal. What are you going to do with this? Like, how are you going to do this? Like, do you want me to introduce myself to this person? Father, what should I do? I'm going to open the door. I will open the door is what he was saying. I'm like, all right, I surrender it. It is sitting in Google Docs. No one even knows that I finished this book proposal. Then I get to a conference. I go to the Elo Sister conference. One lovely afternoon, we are all on a walk. We are all just like hanging, walking, talking about life, talking about what we're working on. This girl looks back, one of the girls that I had known 5 years prior when I first started my blogging journey. And she says, Ashley, have you ever wanted to write a book? And I said, yeah, but I've just never had the opportunity. And she said, I have someone to put you in touch with. Okay, yeah. That was literally my reaction. So we get back. This girl, she puts me in connection with a publisher who I knew about. I knew this publisher for years. I was that crazy person in Barnes & Noble that would go to the Christian book section and go to the back of the books that I loved and be like, okay, who published this? And I'd like recognize the publishers that I really liked and that stood out to me. And we set up a call. I'm in this meeting. The girl looks at me. This was what was crazy. I needed a proposal for the meeting. I had a proposal ready. Locked and sinking. It was done. It was ready to be sent over. So I actually sent it over first. I met with the publisher. They were ready to bring it to pub board, which basically means they're ready to like sign this deal and be done and make it a book. I wanted a literary agent to represent me on this book publishing journey. When she was like, hey, we could bring this to pub board, I said, you know what? Actually, I'm going to wait and see if I can have an agent before I move forward. And she said, okay, I totally get that. And she understood. If she's watching it, Jennifer, I just love you. Jennifer, in her sweet, sweet heart, she goes, how else can I help you? Literally the favor of God. How else can I help you? I said, do you know any agents you would suggest? She says, actually, yes, I have an agent that you would love. Her name is Rachel. You would definitely want to work with her. I then am connected with this agent and I realize this is where it gets weird. I realized that this agent is from the same literary agency that my client was working with a year and a half prior. This is the Lord. Because if I had gone to my client and said, hey, can you give me a connection? Can you try to connect me? Maybe that would have been way too soon, and I would have opened the avocado before the avocado was ripe, you know? And I like would have ruined the avocado. Everyone hates an avocado that isn't ripe, but the Lord made it happen in the perfect time where the avocado was completely ripe and completely perfect for the salad. I then am introduced to the agent that I was going to try to open the door to. Like, the Lord in his favor, he made a way where there was no way, you guys. He did that. Oh my goodness. It's crazy. This story boosts my faith because it just shows, man, ask the Lord for wisdom. We follow his wisdom. We wait for his answer, and then we see his faithfulness. This is his faithfulness. I then get connected to one of my dream agencies. I had actually written down their agency when I went to that conference when I was a sophomore in college, completely was rejected. And then here the Lord opens the door to work with this agency after years of hard work, years of blood, sweat, and tears, years of just posting and sitting down at like my kitchen table after college and having no job and just working hard. The Lord's faithfulness with our faithfulness, it is like so cool to see what he does. But I also just want this to be so encouraging for you to know, like, if you have a dream and it's not going away, I truly believe that's a dream from the Lord. If you don't give up, like, God can actually make it happen, but you can't give up. Like, you have got to keep going. You've got to keep listening to him, getting alone with him, doing what he says, following him. You're gonna see fruit to your faithfulness one day. So what is this book about? As we were deciding on an idea, we were really struggling to land on one, but we finally decided on an idea of something that part of my story of what I've struggled with and what so many of you talk to me about your struggles and what you struggle with, and that is being in a waiting season. I didn't really want to write this book, but like, it's so funny how he allows us to write the book that we need. It was actually the most vulnerable thing that I've ever done, was write this book, because after a very long and painful season of struggling to trust God and fully give him control, I realized that the same things kept coming up again, like fear, struggling to hear God's voice, comparison, and a deep desire to know if I'm really following God's plan for my life. And it all became so clear that if God is not changing your situation, perhaps he is trying to change you. So that is what this book is for. It's not only a guidebook to get you through the waiting season that you are in right now, but it's also to find joy right where you are in the season you are in right now. This is everything I would tell myself going through the depths and pain of being in the waiting room to God's promises for my life. This book is full of encouraging reminders and guidance to keep you going and help you find purpose in the season that you are in right now, even if it feels like you're just in this in-between season. There is joy that you can find right where you are right now. And that's what this book is all about. Okay, also, writing a book is super hard. The revisions are super difficult. It took us forever to land on a cover design. Like, I would get up out of bed at 5 a.m., I would go read my Bible, then I'd go to this office right here, and I would write from like 6 to 7. And I would just write in the morning while the birds were chirping, and it was actually the best experience ever. It's so sweet writing at that time because no one is awake, and just your mind, it's almost like the Lord can just like download things, kind of like in time of solitude. You're just closer with him when it's just you and him and there's no distractions. But it was hard. It was a 2-year process, but it was so worth it. And I am so excited to finally share it with you. You might be wondering, when can I read this book? When can I have this book in my hands? So this book is like having a literal child. So it will be a couple of months. This book isn't out till March of 2024. And I couldn't be more excited for you to get it. The one thing I want for you right now is to go to thehoneyscoop.com/book. We're gonna have it right here and also linked in the description. You are going to learn more about this book. You are going to get exclusive access to cut chapters, sneak peeks, pre-sale bonuses, and more. If you wanna be involved in the process and what has been going on, what's been happening behind the scenes, but also the latest and greatest dates of this process, then go to thehoneyscoop.com/book patreon.com/book, and I would love for you to be a part of the Insiders Club of this process for my life, for my career, for my dreams that are literally coming true, which is crazy. And I will be filling you in more on this book over there. There's going to be a lot more content about this process. I'm so excited to finally get to share this with you because I've been keeping this from you guys for a year and a half. I wanted to hold it close between me and the Lord, but I really feel a release to just let you guys in on this. If it weren't for y'all, this literally would not be a thing. So thank you so much for championing me, for cheering me on, for being in this community. And I just want to leave you with the hope and belief that with God, truly all things are possible. There will always be fruit to your faithfulness, to your steps of obedience, to you following God when it doesn't really make sense. God truly can make anything happen. He can make a way where there is no way. And when you follow him and when you do what he says, it is going to be so cool for you to see the fruit to your obedience. I cannot wait for you to read my book and to go on this journey with you. I love y'all so much. Mwah!